A colossal starship chooses a human mechanic and becomes a galactic superweapon Aurora station hung like a glittering jewel in the void, a hub of human activity orbiting the dying star Eos. 9. Ships of every shape and size drifted lazily among the docking bays, while technicians and engineers hustled between workshops and observation decks. Among them was Kieran Voss, a young human mechanic, known for his skill but rarely for recognition. Kieran wiped grease from his hands and glanced at a freighter's damaged engine. "Another day, same old rust buckets," he muttered. His voice carried a hint of amusement. He loved machines, but the monotony was draining. Humans were not the first choice for high-tech starship operations. Aliens often held the contracts for advanced engineering. Still, Kieran had a gift. He could feel the heartbeat of a machine, anticipate its needs, and coax it back to life like no one else. As he tightened the last bolt, a sudden tremor shook the station. The lights flickered, and the alarms hummed softly. Kieran frowned and raced to the observation deck. "What now?" muttered Lieutenant Eric Halen, a senior officer who rarely left his chair. He stared in disbelief. In the distance, a massive starship drifted toward the station. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen, titanic, sleek, and ancient, with an aura that seemed almost alive. Its surface shimmered faintly, like a metallic pulse. "It's huge," Kieran whispered. He stepped closer, feeling a strange tingle in his chest. "It's responding to me?" Eric raised an eyebrow.
"Responding to you? It's just a ship."
"You're not sensing anything." But Kieran knew he wasn't imagining it. As the ship hovered silently, energy seemed to ripple along its hull. He felt it deep in his hands. Through the tools strapped to his belt, the ship was alive. Somehow, it had chosen him. The station authorities debated whether to board it or leave it alone. Kieran volunteered. "I'll go," he said quietly, surprising everyone.
I think it wants me." They laughed at first, but the captain shrugged. "Fine."
"But you're tethered. Don't do anything stupid." Kieran stepped onto the airlock platform, feeling his heart hammer. The ship's surface was cool, almost organic, like smooth stone warmed by sunlight. He ran his gloved hands across the hull. A hum filled his mind. Not a sound, but a presence. The ship's sensors activated. A faint glow traced lines across the panels, responding to his touch. Kieran took a deep breath and entered the ship. The interior was vast, a cathedral of alien engineering. Light flowed like liquid across curved walls. Panels floated in midair, displaying symbols he did not understand, but somehow he felt them. Each symbol resonated with a part of his mind. "Hello," he whispered. The hum answered him, rising and falling like a melody. His hand hovered over a console, and it pressed itself to his touch. A screen lit up, displaying an image of a massive engine core. Kieran gasped. The ship was showing him its heart. He spent hours exploring, working, and listening. He adjusted circuits, cleaned conduits, and discovered self-repairing mechanisms that responded to his instructions. Every action felt intuitive.
It was as if the ship knew exactly what he needed to do, and he knew what the ship needed. By the end of the day, Kieran realized something remarkable. The ship was not just a machine.
It was a sentient being, alive and aware. It had chosen him as its mechanic, its partner. Word of his discovery spread slowly. Most dismissed it as imagination. But strange things began happening. Tools moved without touch. Lights flickered when Kieran entered rooms, and energy pulses surged whenever he worked. Kieran did not fear it. He felt alive for the first time in years. That night, he stayed aboard the ship, tinkering quietly. He discovered a hidden compartment beneath the engine room. Inside were alien blueprints, glowing crystals, and fragments of a weapon system unlike anything human technology could produce. The air hummed with power, and Kieran's hands tingled as he examined the components. He hesitated. The weapon systems were dangerous, powerful enough to destroy fleets. But the ship pulsed, almost pleading. Kieran realized it wanted him to understand, to help it awaken fully. He studied the schematics, learning quickly. Kieran adjusted one crystal, then another. Energy flowed through conduits, and a soft hum became a low roar. The ship shivered, like it was stretching after a long sleep. Suddenly, the station's alarm blared. Lights flashed red. Eric's voice came over the comm. "Kieran! What did you do?" "We're reading massive energy spikes. I am helping it wake up," Kieran said calmly, though his heart raced. "It's alive, Eric." "You don't understand." The station scrambled. Drones flew toward the ship, curious, or perhaps suspicious. Kieran focused, instinctively guiding the ship. Panels rearranged themselves. Doors slid open automatically. Energy beams formed protective barriers around the vessel. It was defending him as much as itself. Outside, the alien ship shimmered in orbit, colossal and terrifying. The station's crew stared in awe. Kieran felt a bond forming, something deeper than words, a connection that transcended species and technology. Hours passed. Kieran learned the ship's rhythms. Its engines were like lungs, breathing energy. Its weapon systems were like muscles, responding to intention. Its AI was more like consciousness, curious, cautious, and protective. By dawn, Kieran had repaired key systems and unlocked parts of the ship's interface. The vessel was beginning to hum in harmony with him. For the first time, humans had touched something truly galactic in scale, and it had chosen a single human to lead it. Kieran stepped onto the observation deck, staring at the dying star. He whispered, "We'll do great things together." The ship responded with a gentle pulse, almost like a nod. Kieran knew the galaxy would never be the same, and somewhere deep in space, beyond human sensors, another presence stirred. The ship's activation had not gone unnoticed. Other civilizations were watching. Some with curiosity, some with fear. But Kieran did not think about that. He focused on the ship, on the hum of its systems, on the incredible potential beneath his hands. The journey had begun. For the first time, a human felt the pulse of a galaxy-sized starship, and it had chosen him. The hum of the Colossal Starship filled the hangar like a heartbeat. Kieran Voss walked along its vast corridors, his boots echoing against walls that seemed impossibly alive. He had spent days learning the ship's rhythms, understanding its language of pulses and energy flows. Every panel, every conduit, every glowing crystal seemed to respond to him. The bond was growing stronger. Yet even as he marveled at the ship, Kieran knew the truth. The galaxy was watching. His actions had not gone unnoticed. Sensors from distant systems had picked up the starship's awakening, and whispers of a human capable of controlling a planet-sized weapon had begun to spread. He ignored the warnings for now. There was work to do. "Today we test," Kieran said softly, speaking as much to himself as to the ship. He tapped a control panel, sending the engines humming with low vibrations. Outside, Aurora Station seemed impossibly small compared to the immense vessel. The starship's hull reflected the dying light of Eos 9, shimmering like a mirror. Kieran activated the mission interface. A simulation popped up. A research vessel, the Argent Horizon, had gone missing in the torn nebula, a treacherous region filled with asteroid clusters, gravitational anomalies, and violent electrical storms. The ship had called for help before vanishing from human records. "This will be our first real test," Kieran said. "If we can navigate the nebula and retrieve the ship, we'll know how far we've come." The starship responded with a pulse that ran through Kieran's body. It was a gentle encouragement, like a parent guiding a child. He felt the pulse deep in his hands as he calibrated the controls. "Engaging engines," he announced. The colossal ship's engines flared to life, sending shock waves through the docking bay. The station trembled slightly, but Kieran held steady. He could feel the ship's immense power, but he also felt its trust. It would not harm him, not now. The ship lifted from the station, sliding into space with a grace that made Kieran's chest tighten with awe. Outside, the nebula stretched like a storm-colored veil. Dark clouds of gas and rock swirled around glowing lightning streaks. Navigating it would be difficult for even the most experienced pilots. But for Kieran, with the ship as his partner, it was an opportunity. Asteroids loomed like mountains, massive and jagged. The Argent Horizon was somewhere inside the swirling chaos. Kieran guided the ship carefully, feeling its energy shifting with each movement. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We've got this." The ship responded with a shimmer along the walls, almost like it was nodding. Together they danced through the asteroid field. Rocks collided with shields, sending sparks flying, but the ship adjusted automatically, moving faster than any human could have imagined. "Look at that," Kieran murmured. A gravitational anomaly appeared ahead, a ripple in space-time twisting the path of nearby asteroids. Most pilots would have turned away. Kieran leaned closer to the interface. "We'll ride it. Trust me." The ship pulsed, and suddenly Kieran felt a wave of exhilaration. The engines bent space itself, creating a tunnel through the anomaly. Asteroids whirled around them like water, and the Argent Horizon appeared ahead, its hull battered but intact. "We found it," Kieran said. Relief and triumph filled his voice. He guided the starship closer. The research vessel's crew had managed to survive in emergency pods, floating near the ship. Kieran activated the rescue protocols, extending energy beams to guide the pods inside. The crew of the Argent Horizon stared at him in disbelief. You're human," one said, voice trembling. "And you're piloting—" "That?" Kieran smiled faintly. "I'm human, yes, but this ship, it works with me. We're partners." The rescued crew members were grateful, but their awe was tinged with fear. Such power in human hands was unprecedented. Kieran ignored the whispers. This was not about fear. It was about potential. As the last pod entered the ship, alarms blared suddenly. Red lights bathed the corridors. Kieran's stomach tightened. "What now?" The ship's energy shifted, pulsing like a warning.
Kieran tapped the interface.
Outside, a fleet of alien vessels appeared, sleek and predatory. They had detected the colossal ship and were approaching at high speed. "Looks like we've got company," Kieran muttered. The aliens were too fast and numerous for conventional defense. But the ship pulsed, and Kieran felt its readiness. It trusted him to lead. He activated the defensive shields. Energy rippled across the hull, forming a shimmering barrier. The alien ships fired, beams of destructive power slamming against the shield. Sparks flew, but the ship held firm. Kieran's mind raced. He had never commanded a battle before, but instinct guided him. He adjusted energy flows, redirecting power to shields in vulnerable areas. The ship's weapons hummed, responding to his subtle intentions. Without a single shot fired, the alien ships faltered. The colossal ship anticipated their movements, creating force fields and energy pulses that deflected attacks. Kieran felt a surge of exhilaration. They were learning together, human intuition and alien technology in perfect harmony. One of the alien vessels broke formation, charging directly. Kieran directed the ship's energy through a focused beam, not to destroy, but to push it away. The vessel spun out of control and retreated. The rest of the fleet, seeing the ship's capabilities, began to fall back. Breathless, Kieran slumped against the console. "We did it," he whispered. The ship pulsed softly, as if smiling. The crew of the Argent Horizon cheered, their fear giving way to awe. Lieutenant Eric's voice came over the comm. "Kieran, what the hell just happened? That ship!" "It's alive, isn't it?" "Yes," Karan said simply. "And it trusts me." The realization sank in slowly. The starship was not just a weapon. It was a partner, a living entity capable of judgment and action. In the wrong hands, it could devastate entire systems. In Kieran's hands, it could protect civilizations, explore unknown regions, and redefine what humans were capable of. Back at Aurora Station, news of the rescue and the alien fleet spread like wildfire. Humans and aliens alike whispered of the human mechanic in the living starship. Some were amazed, others fearful. But Kieran did not seek fame or power. He was focused on understanding, on strengthening the bond with the colossal ship. That night he sat in the observation deck, staring at the nebula and the distant stars beyond. The ship hummed beside him, a gentle, living presence. Kieran felt a strange peace.
"We're just getting started," he said softly.
There's so much to learn, and so much to protect.
But even as he spoke, Kieran could sense that the galaxy would not leave them alone for long. The alien fleet had retreated, but they would return, and others were watching. The colossal ship's awakening had shifted the balance of power. Humans, long considered minor players, were now a force that others feared, envied, or wanted to control. Kieran did not flinch. He had faced danger and uncertainty, and he had succeeded. With the ship by his side, he felt unstoppable. He leaned back, closing his eyes. The ship's hum matched his heartbeat. Together, they were a team, and together, they would face whatever came next. For the first time, Kieran realized what it truly meant. Humans were capable of more than anyone had imagined. With courage, skill, and partnership, they could rise to meet even the most impossible challenges. And the galaxy would never forget the day a human mechanic piloted a colossal starship through a nebula, rescued a lost crew, and stood unafraid before an alien fleet. This was the beginning. The first test was complete, but the real journey was only just starting. Kieran's hands tingled as he ran them along the console. The ship responded, glowing softly, almost like it was purring. They had survived together. They had triumphed together, and soon they would learn just how powerful a human and a living starship could be when united. The galaxy was changing. Word of a human mechanic in a colossal sentient starship spread like wildfire through star systems. Some whispered awe, some fear, and now the whispers were turning into action. Kieran Voss stood on the observation deck of the colossal ship, staring out at the stars. The nebula had been only the beginning. He had felt the ship's potential in ways words could not describe. Its energy hummed in harmony with him, responsive, alive, and learning. But he also understood that their first encounter with the alien fleet was only a small test. Greater dangers waited beyond the edge of human knowledge. "Are we ready?" Kieran asked aloud, though the ship itself seemed to answer in pulses and lights that ran along the walls. He had learned to interpret them as words, emotions, intentions. "We can do more. We can do better." The mission came swiftly. Sensors detected a massive alien fleet approaching the outer rim of human space. Their ships were countless, moving like shadows through hyperspace. Intelligence reports indicated they were preparing a full assault on human colonies, an invasion meant to crush human influence before it grew any further. Kieran's first instinct was to warn the colonies. The ship agreed silently, its energy flowing in waves of urgency. But warning was not enough. They would need defense and strategy. The colossal starship shifted in orbit, engines bending space-time to cover immense distances in minutes. Kieran guided it like a symphony conductor, each movement precise, intuitive. He had begun to unlock more of the ship's capabilities, weapons that could neutralize multiple targets without destruction, shields that adapted in real time, engines that could leap between space anomalies. As they approached the fleet, Kieran felt a thrill and a twinge of fear. He had never faced such overwhelming odds. But the ship's confidence flowed into him, steadying his mind. They were partners now, not just pilot and vessel, but one entity in action. The aliens struck first, launching waves of energy missiles. Kieran directed the ship's shields, diverting power to the areas under attack. Sparks flew across the hull as beams collided with barriers, but the starship remained unbroken. Kieran focused, sending subtle commands through thought and touch, and the shields reshaped themselves instantly, deflecting attacks while keeping their own offensive power ready. "Stay sharp," Kieran muttered. The ship pulsed, a soft vibration along the walls, almost like a heartbeat of reassurance. The first wave of alien ships closed in. Kieran's eyes scanned the tactical displays, but instinct guided him more than data. He extended energy tendrils from the ship, not to destroy, but to push enemy vessels away, twisting their trajectories and forcing collisions without loss of life. The fleet faltered, shocked by the starship's precision and restraint. Kieran realized something important. This was not just a battle of firepower, it was a battle of ingenuity. The ship could destroy fleets easily, but had responded to his creativity. Every strategy, every clever maneuver was amplified tenfold. Together, they were unstoppable. But the aliens were relentless. From the shadows, a massive warship emerged, larger than the others, bristling with weapons. It was a command vessel, capable of annihilating planets. Kieran's stomach tightened. He had never faced anything like this. The ship pulsed in response. It was aware of the danger and ready to act, but it needed him to lead. Kieran took a deep breath, feeling the hum of energy around him. He could sense weak points in the enemy's formation, flaws in their shields and patterns in their movements. He directed the ship's systems to exploit them. A surge of energy erupted. The Colossal Starship extended a field that bent space itself, creating a pocket of null gravity that immobilized the command vessel. The alien ship struggled, its weapons useless. Kieran focused further, channeling energy into a concentrated pulse. The command vessel spun out of control, its fleet thrown into chaos. Kieran felt exhilaration, but also clarity. He was learning faster than any simulation could teach. The ship responded to his intuition, his decisions, his courage. Humans were often underestimated in the galaxy, not because they lacked ability, but because their creativity and unpredictability were unmatched. The battle raged for hours, but Kieran and the Starship were a perfect team. They did not rely on brute force. Instead, they outmaneuvered, outthought, and outsmarted the alien fleet. By dawn, the remnants of the enemy forces had retreated, defeated but not destroyed. Kieran allowed the ships to flee. Humanity's goal was survival, not extermination. After the battle, Kieran wandered the observation deck, breathing heavily. The ship's hum was gentle now, almost proud. He realized that they had done something remarkable. They had proven that humans, when paired with the right technology, could hold their own against overwhelming odds. "Do you understand what this means?" Kieran whispered. "We're not just defending ourselves. We're showing the galaxy what humans can do." The ship pulsed in agreement. Kieran could feel it learning from him, adapting, evolving. It was no longer just a vessel. It was a living extension of human ingenuity. And through it, humans had become something more than they had ever been. Word spread quickly. Galactic factions took notice. Some sent envoys, seeking alliances. Others plotted in secret, fearing a human-led superweapon. Kieran ignored politics for now. His focus was on understanding the ship, learning how far they could push their synergy. In private moments, Kieran experimented with the ship's full range of abilities. He discovered engines capable of near-instant travel between star systems, shields that could absorb entire solar flares, and weapons that could disable entire fleets without harming lives. Each experiment revealed more of the ship's potential and more of what a human could achieve when partnered with it. But with power came responsibility. Kieran remembered the look in the eyes of the Argent Horizon crew. Fear and hope intertwined. He knew that any misuse of this starship could lead to catastrophe. He vowed silently. The ship's power would be a shield, not a sword. Days later, a new challenge emerged. A distress signal arrived from a human colony near the Oberon Rift, a volatile region of space riddled with unstable wormholes. Entire sectors had disappeared before, consumed by gravitational anomalies. Kieran accepted immediately. This was a test of precision, of strategy, of morality. The ship pulsed in agreement, energy vibrating along every corridor. They approached the rift cautiously. Kieran guided the ship through narrow, twisting tunnels of energy and rock. The colossal vessel bent space to navigate hazards, and Kieran felt exhilaration. They moved together, human instinct and alien technology in perfect harmony. The colony was trapped on a fragment of stable land, surrounded by collapsing wormholes. Civilians were panicking. The ship extended energy bridges, stabilizing zones of space long enough to evacuate the population. Kieran worked tirelessly, directing the flow of energy, controlling shields, and anticipating failures. Every action was amplified by the ship's responsiveness. By the end, every civilian was safe. Kieran slumped in the observation deck, exhausted but elated. He had done the impossible. not with raw firepower, but with creativity, strategy, and human intuition. The ship hummed softly, almost like a sigh of contentment. In the quiet that followed, Kieran realized the truth. Humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because no one had seen what they could do when empowered by intelligence, courage, and ingenuity. The galaxy would notice soon enough. Aliens once dominant would learn that humans were no longer minor players. Kieran and the Colossal Starship were a living legend in the making, a force capable of defending life, exploring the unknown, and rewriting what it meant to be human. As Kieran gazed at the stars, he whispered again, "We're ready. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The ship pulsed in resonance, a living, breathing affirmation. And somewhere, far beyond human sensors, watchers in other star systems stirred. Some were wary, others fearful, and some eager. The galaxy was about to meet a human mechanic who had become more than human, paired with a starship that was more than a machine. Together they were a superweapon, but a weapon for life, creativity, and protection. The journey had escalated beyond survival. Kieran understood now that this was the true power of humans. Not brute force, but imagination, intuition, and courage amplified to galactic scale. And the universe, vast and ancient, would never look at humanity the same way again. The galaxy was watching. Kieran Voss and the Colossal Starship had become a legend whispered across star systems. Some spoke of awe, others of fear, but all recognized the same truth. Humans were no longer insignificant. Kieran stood on the observation deck staring at the swirl of stars. The ship hummed beneath his hands, alive and aware, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. After the Nebula rescue and the battle with the alien fleet, humanity had proven it could rise above limits. Yet Kieran knew their work had just begun. Power attracted attention and scrutiny. Reports arrived daily. Galactic factions sought meetings, each with their own agendas. Some wanted alliances, hoping to benefit from human ingenuity. Others were wary, fearing what a single human in a sentient starship could accomplish. Kieran read each message carefully. He knew they could not blindly trust anyone. "We have to be careful," he said aloud, the ship pulsing in response. "Some will see us as saviors, some as conquerors. We decide what we are." The first visitor arrived 2 days later. An alien envoy from the Zarathi Council, a powerful federation that once dismissed humans as insignificant. Their leader, a towering figure with shimmering skin, stepped aboard the ship. "You are the human they speak of," the Zarathi said, voice echoing in the massive hall. "And this vessel, incredible." Kieran nodded. "It's more than a vessel. It's alive, and it chose me to work with it." The Zarathi studied him for a long moment. A single human, commanding such power, it is unprecedented. "Yes," Kieran said. "And it will not be used to conquer, only to protect, to explore, and to inspire." That is what humans do best. We create, we adapt, and we learn. The Zarathi studied him silently, then bowed slightly. "Then perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." News of the meeting spread quickly. Many factions sent their own emissaries, curious to see the human and the living starship in action. Some were hostile, sending fleets to test Kieran's resolve. Others sought guidance, requesting aid for colonies and research missions. Kieran realized that he had a responsibility not just to humanity, but to the galaxy itself. The next mission arrived swiftly. Reports came from a sector near the Crimson Expanse, where a rogue faction had seized control of a system, threatening trade routes and vulnerable colonies. Kieran accepted immediately. The ship pulsed with energy, eager to act.
As they approached the sector, Kieran studied the fleet formations.
The rogue faction was heavily armed but lacked the coordination and intuition humans excelled at. Kieran directed the ship, its systems amplifying his instincts. Shields bent space to protect vulnerable areas, energy beams diverted enemy fire, and Kieran orchestrated maneuvers that outsmarted the enemy fleet at every turn. This battle was different. It was not just survival, it was leadership. Kieran guided human and allied ships, teaching them strategies and tactics, showing them how creativity and adaptability could overcome overwhelming odds. By the time the rogue fleet retreated, the colonies were safe, and Kieran's reputation had grown. The ship pulsed in satisfaction. Kieran smiled. "We're not just defending humans anymore," he said. "We're showing the galaxy what humans are capable of, without destroying what matters." Weeks passed. Kieran and the Colossal Starship traveled from system to system, mediating disputes, rescuing colonies from natural disasters, and confronting threats that no single civilization could handle alone. The starship evolved continuously, learning not only from Kieran's commands but from his values: morality, creativity, empathy. It became clear that humans were shaping the ship as much as it shaped them. Yet not everyone welcomed this change. A secret coalition of alien powers began plotting, fearing a human-led force could upset the balance of power. Spies infiltrated the colonies, seeking weaknesses. Kieran sensed their presence but did not panic. He had learned that fear and aggression could not match ingenuity, courage, and strategy. During a quiet night, Kieran sat on the observation deck, staring at the distant glow of a newly forming star. The ship pulsed softly beside him. "They fear us," he said, "but fear doesn't define us. We define ourselves." Humans don't conquer. They adapt, they protect, and they inspire. The ship hummed in agreement, a low, vibrating tone that Kieran had come to recognize as affirmation. He knew the galaxy would continue to test them, but he felt ready. Together, they had faced impossibilities and emerged stronger. The turning point came when the secret coalition made its move. A fleet appeared suddenly near the Vesper cluster, a region of densely packed star systems. Their intent was clear: eliminate Kieran and the starship before humanity could expand further. Kieran assessed the situation. The enemy fleet outnumbered them heavily, yet he did not hesitate. He had learned to think beyond numbers, beyond brute strength. The ship pulsed with energy as he directed it, anticipating enemy maneuvers, bending space to create advantages, and using its weapons to create advantages, and using its weapons to disable rather than destroy. The battle was fierce. Energy beams tore through empty space, ships collided, and shields flared in brilliant arcs of light. Kieran moved with confidence, each decision precise and calculated. The enemy underestimated human creativity, and it became their undoing. One by one, enemy ships were incapacitated, not destroyed. Kieran guided them into containment fields, capturing them safely. By the end of the engagement, the Coalition's fleet was forced to retreat, humiliated but unharmed. News of this victory spread across the galaxy. For the first time, many civilizations saw humans as equals, capable of strategy, compassion, and leadership. Kieran realized that they had not just defended humanity. They had changed the galaxy's perception of it forever. Back on the observation deck, Kieran reflected. "We've done more than survive," he said softly. "We've inspired." The starship pulsed brighter, as if smiling. Kieran laughed quietly. "You feel that too, don't you? We're not just a weapon. We're a symbol, a reminder that humans are capable of greatness." With each mission, Kieran began to consider the future. He envisioned a network of sentient starships, each paired with humans, working together to explore, defend, and expand knowledge across the galaxy. Not for war or domination, but for progress and protection. He spent hours planning, training others, and sharing insights with trusted allies. The Colossal Starship became a mentor and teacher, passing on strategies, knowledge, and ethical guidance. Kieran had become more than a mechanic. He was a leader, a strategist, and a pioneer. The galaxy began to shift. Factions that once ignored humans now sought alliances. Trade flourished, colonies thrived, and the knowledge of advanced technologies spread in controlled, responsible ways. Kieran and the ship had not just survived. They had reshaped the balance of power without destroying it. In quiet moments, Kieran would return to the observation deck, staring at the stars. The ship would pulse beside him, its energy calm but alive. He knew challenges would continue to arise. Others would test humanity, and dangers beyond their current understanding waited. But he also knew this: humans were ready. Not because of sheer strength or technology, but because of ingenuity, courage, and heart. Paired with sentient starships, humans could rise to meet any challenge. As he looked into the vast galaxy, Kieran whispered, "We're ready for whatever comes next. Together, we will explore, protect, and grow. Humans will no longer be underestimated." The colossal starship pulsed in agreement, bright energy flowing through its hull. The universe was vast, full of wonders, dangers, and mysteries, but Kieran and the ship were prepared. Together they had become more than human, more than machine. They were a living symbol of what humans could achieve. The final image was striking. A single human mechanic standing on the deck of a starship the size of a planet, gazing at the stars, surrounded by energy and light. Behind him, the galaxy stretched infinitely, filled with unknown challenges and adventures. For the first time in eons, the universe seemed to take notice of humanity, and humanity had risen to meet it with wisdom, courage, and creativity. Kieran smiled. The journey was far from over, but the first chapter of this new era had been written, and somewhere in the depths of space, civilizations both near and far would remember the day a human mechanic piloted a colossal starship and became the galaxy's guardian, mentor, and hope.